And forgive me because I do not have the packet printed out or the agenda, so I'm going to be switching back and forth between windows. But we've got our call to order, and let me do roll call. So Commissioner Broadnax.
Huh?
Commissioner Bryan.
Here.
Commissioner Dozer perhaps will be joining us soon. Commissioner, is it pronounced Gill? I think that was.
It is correct.
Okay, so Commissioner Gill, sounds like you're here. Excellent. Mm-hmm. And Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Palzer here. And we know that Commissioner Redmond is absent this evening. So let's go through and take a look at the agenda as submitted for tonight. Let's see if we can approve that, or perhaps there are some additions to the agenda. Anyone have any additions or changes?
Madam Chair, no staff changes.
All right. All right, so barring any changes or additions, is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
I can move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, so moved by Commissioner Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bryan. So all in favor to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes all for the agenda approval. And then we'll go to the approval of minutes from our December 20th meeting. So those were submitted in our, compiled and put in our packet. If there are any corrections or additions, let's go ahead and discuss those. Otherwise, we can move to approve those meeting minutes as submitted. All right, doesn't sound like there's any corrections, questions or anything like that. So if there's a motion to approve the meeting minutes as submitted.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Gell.
I'll second.
Seconded by, and I didn't hear where that came from. Was that Commissioner Bryan?
No, that's me, Kayla.
Oh, okay. Oh, welcome. There you are. Awesome. Because seconded by Commissioner Dozer. All in favor, say aye.
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 And I wasn't here, abstention.
Okay, so we've got ayes all with one abstention from Commissioner Miller. Excellent. So that brings us to our new business. So item A for new business is the election of chair and vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. So tonight we will be doing our annual elections of the chair and vice chair. The Environmental and Natural Resources Commission ordinance does require the commission nominate and elect the chair and vice chair to run the meetings each year. And the ordinance does outline the duties for information. The chair is responsible for calling and presiding at meetings and shall have an equal vote with other members of the commission. If the chairperson is not at the meeting, the vice chair shall assume the duties of the chair for that meeting. So you're basically responsible for running the meetings, as well as the occasional visit to our city council to give them some updates, maybe on our annual report or perhaps resolutions of appreciation, things of that nature. So last year, in 2021, the commission nominated and appointed Commissioner Palzer as the chair and Commissioner Dozer as the vice chair. And as you recall, and as requested previously, we brought it up at the December Environmental Commission meeting, just to give you a heads up and prepare you for that. So we didn't hear any comments on that, but you've been thinking about it, I'm sure. And so tonight we are looking for a motion to nominate a chair and vice chair. And then we need a motion to approve the chair and vice chair nominations. So as I recall, last year, during a Zoom meeting, we conducted the elections as well. And we had suggested perhaps the commission wanted to put in the chat box the nominations for chair and vice chair. And then I would tally those up and then I guess announce the ones that were nominated. And then we could go from there. Is that acceptable?
Yep, I'm glad that you remembered that because I mean it was only a year ago, but I'd already forgotten. Is it something where you would want it as a private chat directly to you, or
Oh,
you know,
yes,
for all
directly to me, directly to me.
okay,
Yes. So if you could just do chair and then a name, and then vice chair and a name.
Okay.
I guess if you have nominations, how about that? Because you don't have to have a nomination, right?
Right. Perhaps maybe before we jump into that, if there's someone who didn't want to hold either of those, maybe it would simplify the process if there is someone who wouldn't want to hold either of those roles, just to maybe let us know that as part of our discussion here. So, or that way we wouldn't put your name forward if it was not something that you would accept the nomination for. Not to put people on the spot, but I guess I would share that, like, as the outgoing chair, I would be interested in not having either the chair or the vice chair going forward.
I'd say with me being fairly new, I don't know if I'd be extremely comfortable with just the chair position, potentially the vice chair position.
Okay.
Happy keeping my chair position or my co-chair, or what are we calling it? But I don't know that I would want to do the chair.
I echo the same sentiments, and being relatively new, just not even a year on the commission. I'm not quite to the point where I feel like I'd be good for chair, but potentially vice chair.
But I guess if Anne is done, I think I'm the only one left who's been around a little bit longer for chair.
I would say that I don't know that our commission is real high pressure as a chairperson role compared to maybe some of the other commissions, and in general, I think we've all been real supportive of each other. So if you were game to try it, we certainly are here to help you through that. So myself and Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Redmond have all been chair in the past, so we can help and give tips or nudge along. And then Sean is a fantastic staff person to remind us of the things that we need to do and the procedures and stuff like that. So I have every confidence that you'd be able to do it if you're
And
comfortable.
just so you're aware, I believe that they had me be chair like a month after I started. So you guys would all be fine. They sort of were like, like just jump in and do it because you're going to be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I do recall that, Molly. I think that you're right. You were brave. You jumped right in. And all went well.
Somebody just said, "Can I just make her that?" Remember that? Who was that? Which whoever was chair at the time just went, "Can I just make her it?" Remember that? That was the weirdest thing. I was like, "Whoa." But yeah, no, don't be afraid because we're all here for you. Serious.
Okay. Well, maybe.
All right, I'm already writing names in the chat, just FYI.
Oh, okay, if you do write names in the chat, however, it kind of sounded like we had two nominations. Okay, if you do write names in the chat, please remember to address it to me. So I'll give you a moment. I received 3. Did one more person want to, or I guess I've received. Yeah, 3, 4. And I'll wait on one more person a moment to see. Okay. So I will now announce the nominees for chair. I guess I should count these up here. One moment, please. Okay, I have 2 nominees for Commissioner Dozer for chair. Bear with me here, I have other nominees. One nominee for Commissioner Bryan as chair, and one nominee for Commissioner Miller as chair. Commissioner Dozer, Bryan, and Miller for chair. You want to handle that one first?
Yeah, let's do that. Because that, just in case there's duplicate nominations for chair and vice chair, then
You want me to
can
announce the
clarify
vice
that.
chair? I can do that.
well, you're seeing them. Does it make sense to? Or we can go forward.
I don't know. Let me see. All right. Okay. There is one other commissioner in the mix for vice chair. I'll announce here. So.
Okay.
Just remember what I said for chair, because I won't. For vice chair, we have a nomination for Commissioner Dozer, Commissioner Bryan, and Commissioner Broadnax. 3 and 3.
Okay, excellent. So I think let's move forward with the chair role then, and give opportunity for those nominated to, if they absolutely did not want to be considered, they could remove their name from consideration. And barring that, then we could go ahead and vote. So perhaps they speak now or forever hold your peace.
I guess I'll keep my nomination for chair, knowing that there is the support of other. So I'll just keep that out there.
Okay.
I'd actually like to take my name off because I really think that somebody who's new should try it because it's really good experience. Really, really good. And we will definitely be here to help you out.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Miller. That makes sense. I think you've done it twice previously, so
yeah. And I appreciate it though. Thank you. But it's good to put on your resume.
Madam Chair, I did want to mention, we did bring it up in December where Commissioner Redmond was at that meeting, and he didn't announce an interest either way. So if you were thinking about his absence, and also he was the chair, what, 2 years ago?
That sounds right.
So I don't really think that's a concern unless you do. I guess we should have discussed that previously, but he did not express an interest in chair or vice chair.
Mm-hmm. I think, because we do have nominees that are here tonight that, we know are okay with being considered. Commissioner Redmond has been in the past and potentially could be in the future as well. But my guess is that he would be, in support of loaning his skills that he's gained previously in the role, you know, to any of our new folks too. So maybe let's go ahead and do a vote with the nominees that we do have, and then move on to the vice chair one. How's that sound? And for the vote, is that by chat as well, or would you like to do that as a verbal vote? I'm not sure what protocol is. I think probably protocol is maybe that we would do it out loud, verbally. Is that all right?
I think we need to publicly announce your vote. So I think, no, in the past, we've had the nominations and then you voted in private on a little sheet of paper and I announced it, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So yes.
Yes.
We right now, I will just, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, and then you can announce further. We'll take your chat to me personally, your choice for chair. We have Commissioner Bryan and Commissioner Dozer.
Are you seeing those come through, Sean?
Yes, just the last one. So congratulations, Commissioner Dozer, with a vote. Do I announce the vote? Is that, I guess I should.
Yeah.
We have 4 in voting for Commissioner Dozer and 1 for Commissioner Bryan.
Excellent.
Wait.
So congratulations,
That
Commissioner
doesn't add up.
Dozer.
5, Commissioner Dozer, 1, Commissioner Bryan. Had to check my math there. Congratulations.
Sounds good to me.
I call election fraud. I call election fraud.
I'll pull the chats later for documentation.
Excellent. So then as far as vice chair, we will remove Commissioner Dozer's name from consideration for that, since she'll already be holding the chair role. So that leaves us with Commissioner Bryan and Commissioner Broadnax as the 2 nominees for vice chair. And I'm going to assume, Commissioner Bryan, based on the fact that you were willing to serve as the chair, that a vice chair role would be okay for you. Is that correct? Excellent. And then Commissioner Bryan gave us the thumbs up there. And then Commissioner Broadnax, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know, you're relatively new to the commission. So again, I'll be here to support you. The vice chair is a good way to get some exposure to, running the meeting, kind of some of those things, but it is not rocket science. So I absolutely am sure that you could do it if you wanted to, but just wanted to make sure you had a chance to confirm, that you would be okay with it if not, or that you would be willing to accept the position if nominated.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay, so then next, let's go ahead and do this same process where we send a message privately to Sean to indicate our votes for that role, and we'll let her tally those up.
Being an election judge is very stressful. I wasn't sure where the other chats ended and these began. Okay, I got it now.
It's a little surprising there's not Like the Zoom platform doesn't have a poll type of option, where you could indicate a
Oh,
vote.
I
It'd be hard
Yes,
to set
they
up
do.
maybe, but that'd be nice, right?
They do have
do.
that.
Oh.
Because we do it for classes all the time. I just don't know how to do it.
Okay.
I think
Wait,
it's something you
good
kind of want to
thinking.
have. Yeah, something you kind of want to have beforehand. Otherwise, you'd see
Mhm.
me tinkering and, all right. Now all you have to do is see me thinking. Okay, here we go.
See you thinking.
It's a painful process. All right. All right. Thank you. Sorry for the delay. For vice chair, the votes are Commissioner Bryan, 4, Commissioner Broadnax, 2.
Excellent. Congratulations, Commissioner Bryan. Excellent. Well, thank you all for participating in that. That is excellent. And I guess one thing that we didn't mention, and part of the fun of this, is that there's an immediate handoff of the chair responsibilities. So Commissioner Doser, I will hand the, when we're virtual, there's no real gavel, but the gavel authority over to you to kind of guide us through the next part. And in reality, with the work plan information, a lot of that will be, and we certainly have that in our packet, but Sean's got a lot of information to kind of pull that together so we can make our plan of what we want to accomplish in the next year.
Well, let me get my agenda pulled up here first. I seem to have lost it. I just had it up.
You could go on the website and.
I had it on my phone pulled up. Maybe that's easier.
There we go. I've taken notes because I have to reflect this in a minute. So this stalling is helping my situation.
Glad I can help. Okay. All right, so I see we are completed. We've completed the election. We're moving on to the 2021 annual report. Do I need to stall a bit more?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. So, in years past, we had some fun goal setting sessions. We had dinner, we had big sticky notes, we did big charts, it was a big brainstorming session. And now you're stuck with just looking at each other on a screen. So I do apologize for that. So now I do like to call them our 2022 work plan because there's items that we need to accomplish that we know of. And then our environmental priorities, items that we want to work on to continue goals that we usually have already set. Some items in our comp plan and our climate adaptation plan. So instead of just, total brainstorm, we like to refer back to things that we had already stated in our goals. So with that said, I'm going to share the screen here, one moment. And I would like to just briefly give you an update on where we are with some of the items that we had been working on in 2021. So in 2021, we looked at the Mississippi River Critical Area and Slope Ordinance. And I pulled this directly from the staff report. I apologize, I didn't have time to create a fancy slideshow, but I think this will get the picture across. So that was complete, job well done. So that was adopted by the City Council in October of 2021, and it was approved by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources in the fall of 2020. And we were required to complete that by October. So we met our deadline, and that is now an actual ordinance. There are some follow-up things that I need to do at a staff level, just for implementation purposes, but other than that, that is complete. Then annually, we do the trash recycling annual review. This is something that is spelled out in the contracts with Tennis Sanitation for the recycling and Republic Services for the trash. And I am scheduling that review for the March Environmental Commission. And for information, we are in year now 3 of that contract that was signed. It's a 5.5-year contract that goes until June of 2025, I believe. Yes. So that'll be complete later this year, or well, we completed last year's and we'll do it again this year. The renewable energy ordinance, you may recall, we saw this in 2018 and then finalized it last year based on some additional SolSmart technical advisor comments and feedback. And that is scheduled to go, I don't have an exact date, but it will be February or March. It'll go for review to the City Council. And I just need to follow up with our building official and community development staff and just ensure they have a good look at the draft ordinance, although I can't imagine there will be any issues. But other than that, it'll be finalized with the council again in the spring. Oh, during our work session last year, we did outline the possibility of looking at the wetland ordinance. And this was based on some issues that came up with the Public Works Department. They were doing a road improvement and bridge improvement project on Sterling in South Maplewood. And it was impacting Fish Creek, which is classified as a wetland actually in the wetland ordinance. And there's some requirements in the ordinance that outlines some things that didn't quite make sense. So I think when we wrote it, we didn't really have this experience, some sort of public hearing and notification of neighbors, which did notify the neighbors, and it did go to the city council. And in the end, the improvements that they made much improved the wetland because there was some erosion with the old bridge and so forth. So we identified a need to make some changes to that. And then when we adopted the wetland ordinance years ago, we adopted the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District wetland maps. And those maps are based on Minnesota routine assessment methodology. They go out, this is what they did back in, I think it was 2009, and they reassessed all the wetlands in the district with this methodology. And then we came up with the classifications of manage A, B, and C. And since that time, as developments happen, additional wetland studies are done, and there's changes to the wetland maps. You know, sometimes the wetland may be downgraded to a manage B from an A, or may be upgraded, or the dimensions of the wetland will have changed. So we get those maps yearly, and then we also make some of our own changes when there's development proposals. So we really should be bringing that to the council for adoption of those changes. But we did not get to that last year. And then, as you know, the Nature Center Task Force was underway in 2020 and 2021, and they came up with recommendations, and we wanted to be involved in the implementation of that. And since that time, as you know, the city has created this new Park and Natural Resources Department, and that department with 4 staff members, in addition to the park maintenance crew who are in a separate building. But the Park and Natural Resources staff are in the Nature Center building, and we're working our way back at getting some additional programming. And I can update you on that. I think that's something that we really want to carry over in 2022. So that's an update on last year. So job well done, everyone. Then for the environmental priorities, again, I wanted to remind you that we will see the trash and recycling annual review. The zoning updates, now these are things that I think we might see or might want to work on. When we modified our comp plan, the 2040 comp plan, which was adopted back in 2018, 19, cities that are required to update their zoning codes to match any changes that were made in the comp plan. And I just asked a question to our community development department about what changes they thought, because they're working with a consultant to work on some of these overall comp plan changes, zoning changes. A big one is this new mixed-use zoning district that we have created. We had that previously, but we have now zoned, or I should say guided, many of our kind of some of our smaller commercial pockets as this mixed use. And we really need to create an ordinance based on all that. And the one item that I thought the Environmental Commission might want to take a look at is this parking ordinance, which, you know, there are elements of the parking ordinance that affect our environment. The stormwater impacts, you know, the size of the parking lot. Do we really need all that parking? Some EV strategies, electric vehicle, you know, things like that. And then the shoreland ordinance, I was researching with the Department of Natural Resources. They did some rulemaking back in 2010, I believe. And that never went through. It stalled, and then the legislature never brought up that rulemaking again. But from all that process, because I remember going to several meetings with the DNR, they created a draft ordinance that's based on the original rules. And, you know, we might want to review our shoreland ordinance, you know, which was adopted years ago. I'm sorry, I can't remember the date, but there's some things that are probably outdated that we should take a look at. So that's a possibility. Again, the wetland ordinance, as I had indicated previously, the infrastructure exemptions and the wetland map. And then, of course, our climate the climate mitigation plan. Of course, we adopted the climate adaptation plan, and now we are working on implementation of that. And we know that the next step in our climate planning is a mitigation plan to reduce strategies to reduce our emissions and so forth. And we did apply for a MPCA planning resilience grant, and we will hear back from them in March. And if we do get that grant award, we can proceed with this planning for the mitigation plan. And I wanted to ensure that it's just not, because it was a huge project, the adaptation planning. I mean, we had staff from the county, you know, our businesses, residents, and it was quite a big process with a lot of feedback. And so I didn't want to have a whole big process like that again, because I don't know that, you know, we'd have the same participation. So maybe a smaller scale planning process, but ensuring that we come up with a strategy that we're implementing both of those, because, you know, that's really the key. You can have all the plans you want in place, but if you don't have a strategy for making it all happen, it's just going to sit on a shelf. So hopefully we'll see that with this grant award and the Nature Center Task Force recommendations. So the Nature Center staff, I wanted to update you, for Parks and Natural Resources staff. We're working with, we're looking at a lot of different partnerships. One of those is community education through the school district. And through that, we will be offering some nature programming that's paid for by community ed, but housed at the nature center. And then they would do all the registration and things of that nature. And some of the naturalists that will be doing this were previous naturalists at the nature center. So that's an added bonus to be able to bring back some programming like that. And, you know, some other partnerships along the way. And then, of course, the Friends of Maplewood Nature, who is a nonprofit organization that supports nature programming in the Nature Center. Their board, they have a meeting monthly, and I'm on the agenda for February to discuss some items that we're working on at the Nature Center and some partnerships that we'll be doing with the Friends. But their president has offered to come before the Environmental Commission and meet with you and kind of talk about how together the Environmental Commission, Friends of Maplewood Nature, city staff can work toward supporting more programming and so on at the Nature Center as well, which of course is something that's outlined in the Environmental Commission ordinance that you'll support the Nature Center and its programming. But we know all that changed during COVID and with the Nature Center shuttering. So I'll stop sharing because that's the updates. And then I will just point out in the staff report, I gave you a lot of reading material. Some of you have not been here during the planning process for much of that. We have our comprehensive plan, which has energy and climate goals and local food goals. We have our climate adaptation plan, which, you know, most of that is really working with other departments and other organizations. But there are some strategies in there that the Environmental Commission can tackle. We are a green step city, and there's all sorts of best practices in there. I mentioned one or two that the Environmental Commission could take a look at. And Green Step does call for a steering committee, and I've always called the Environmental Commission the steering committee, so there you are. I think that was it for all the goals. So with all that said, we're looking for some comment and feedback on how you as a commission would like to see the year roll out, knowing the couple items that we'll probably see, and knowing our previous goals. And I think the big component here really is the climate adaptation and mitigation. And I forgot to mention, and this is exciting, the City Council did adopt the climate emergency resolution last night. And that's in addition to 16 other Minnesota cities. And that, you may have seen a couple articles on that. There was one in the Star Tribune and one on NPR. And we'll do some education and outreach in our Maplewood Living, an article coming from Councilmember Juneman. So it's really, of course, you know, cities in number are saying to the legislature, you know, take a look at our budget and the federal funding that's coming in, and really take a look at that with a climate lens. And so I saw that another city is calling out their environmental commission. They're calling this the year 2022 climate action year. So, and they're proposing to do several outreach opportunities to kind of educate and so forth. And that brings me to one more thing. We also received that grant from Metro Clean Energy Resource Teams, the portion of it that will allow us to do the education and outreach to our manufactured homes to reduce the energy burden on our historically underserved population there. So right there, we've got some education and outreach going on over the summer. So 2022 climate action year is in progress. So thank you for listening to me ramble on. Let me know if you have any questions, but again, looking for some feedback and comment, and then I can bring it back in February and we can refine it. And then that goal, or I guess environmental priority, would be added to our annual report that will go before the council. Thank you.
All right, anybody have any comments? I'd be curious to know more about the climate emergency resolution that just passed last night and what we as a commission can do to help further that for Maplewood. And I know last year I only did one volunteering event. My husband did another, but it'd be great to keep us informed of any opportunities for volunteering this year.
Maybe I'll just listen to the feedback and then answer some questions, if you don't mind.
Okay. I'm thinking too, I mean, the ordinance stuff, as we go through the year, it seems like we're pretty good at spacing some of that out and kind of tackling those items as we go. So I think, definitely keep those on the list, as well as the trash and recycling review. I like the idea of grouping everything around a climate action year, making sure, I'd say maybe at each meeting that we're checking in on that and kind of measuring our progress against that, just because that's such a huge issue. So maybe we make that a theme for the year, but I would say I really don't want us to forget about the Nature Center planning and implementation. We know that programming stopped there, but there were, when that stopped, some, issues came to light of, where some struggles were with funding and those kinds of things. And there was a large task force, a lot of volunteer hours and time that went into that. And I want to make sure that we do whatever we can to move those items forward to get, sort of that new model in place to support that how we can. I'm excited. I mean, we've had some interaction. The commission has had some interaction in the past with the Friends group, but not a lot. Maybe not as much as maybe we ought to have, considering a shared goals, shared values with that organization. So I'd be excited to make sure that we do that check-in with the president of the Friends of Maplewood Nature, and then I'm not certain how we can support that. I know that the task force identified some areas, and if there are some tasks that we can take on, or some outreach to formalize any partnerships or anything along those lines, I think it would be great to do it. But I think let's try to keep that. If we're doing climate adaptation, climate change as like our number one, let's keep that as a something to check in with frequently. Hopefully we can get past this COVID current situation where we're distanced again quite a bit, and kind of jump in with getting the Nature Center back up and running again.
Molly, Mr.
Sean,
Miller.
Hi, thanks. I do want to point out that even though this is something that can't be completed, number 4 under local food access actions, the integrating community gardens into public housing developments. We were, just to kind of give you an update, we put a fairly large garden, and it took quite a bit of time, with, thank goodness for Sean's help, and a little bit of frustration with some people, but we've got in a underserved public housing development, we've got a very large kind of personal, I don't know if it's large, but a community gardening area. And even though it wasn't super crazy successful, I think that's how success is measured in a different way, because we got into that community, they're supporting it, it's getting more attention, and it's from what I've heard from the families, it's feeling safer because there's more awareness and traffic from city employees there now. And I've seen a lot of people who are non-English speakers. I worked with a lot of families who it was charades the whole time of planting and gardening and harvesting. and eating, and they would bring out food and things that they prepared with the food for thanks for the people that were working on it. And a lot of kids that didn't have things to do this summer that were kind of in, I work for a behavior for a school, and some of the kids that were in my program actually helped me with the garden, and I really feel like it's been a positive thing in that neighborhood. So just a little update for that. And thank you, Sean, so much. That was so much work, and it still is going to be, but I really appreciate your help with that.
I wanted to just come back around a little bit to the nature center. So part of the reason why, at least I understood, the shutdown was the closure of the nature center was due to lack of funding. And so now with the partnership with community, yeah, there'll be some support coming from there, but then also with a lot of these climate action grants, such as the one from PCA and all of that, and identifying a lot of these climate action plans, will there be opportunities for additional funding for programming that can be run through the nature center that way?
So as promised, I thought I'd listen to all the feedback and then I'll address everything.
Okay.
Did you have anything else to add to that? Okay.
Well, I was just curious if part of the climate resolution, if there's going to be opportunities the city provides for funding educational programming that can be implemented through the nature center.
Anybody else have any comments? If not, Sean, do you want to give a response to anything that we've kind of been chatting about?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the climate emergency resolution that was adopted by the City Council last night was really kind of a public relations way of letting the legislature know that the cities are working on these items, and many cities, especially the smaller cities, need additional funding and assistance for the climate actions and implementing those programs. But that is, one of the city's goals, which was outlined in the comp plan. And then, of course, we were able to complete the climate adaptation portion of that. And then to do the mitigation, we're hoping to get that grant for that. So as far as what the Environmental Commission could do, you of course recommended approval of that climate resolution. And I think we're all looking towards the Environmental Commission to be the leaders in guiding us, through those climate actions. So I think calling this the 2022 climate action year, and making sure that we're checking in on that climate adaptation plan at least monthly, or our climate goals as the Environmental Commission was a good suggestion by Commissioner Halter. And then volunteering, I used to put together a calendar with all the events that we would hold throughout the year, but because of COVID, those events are much limited now. And I would include it in your goal setting or work plan staff report. But again, I didn't do that this time around because I don't know all those events except for the spring cleanup, National Night Out, and then Waterfest. I think are the three big opportunities for our Environmental Commission to get involved. And then now with the grant that we'll be working on, and we called it Clean Energy for All, because this is working with the manufactured homes. It was pretty extensive, and the grant was originally for $5,000, doing some additional works, but they awarded us $1,000 for that study, which will look at innovative approaches to assisting manufactured home residents to reduce their energy burden and, the possibility of solar access. So it'll be a study that'll be conducted. And then based on the results of that study, we'll do that outreach over the summer, working with the Center for Energy Environment, doing some home energy squad visits to the manufactured home parks. We have 3 with about 800 households. And then in addition, working with, and I forget their full name, but the acronym is CUB, and they look at, they have a service where they review energy bills and help residents understand those bills because, there's so many fees and this and that and this and that. And so they help people understand the bills and then help them reduce the costs associated with energy by understanding those bills and making some changes. So we'll be working with those 2 organizations to do this outreach. There'll be plenty of opportunity for volunteering during that event. And I'll keep you posted on those events as they come up, and we'd love to have your assistance in all of those. So then the task force, I heard from 2 commissioners on that, and I think it would be beneficial to have our Park and Natural Resources Manager come and give a presentation, perhaps, to our Environmental Commission on that task force. I know they updated the City Council last year, and then kind of based on that, they created this new department. And I think we're still working on, the budget issue. Right now, there is no budget in this year's budget for the Nature Center and programming. But, we're working our way back. And so that's something that I was hoping that our Park and Natural Resource Manager could fill us in on, and that would be beneficial, as well as hearing from the Friends of Maplewood Nature and what they're doing to help funding at the Nature Center and at our Nature Center, I should say our neighborhood preserves. And right now we're working on a program, 2 programs with the Friends of Maplewood Nature. And one is, you'll see it advertised in the February newsletter. It's going to be kind of a fun thing to get people out and active and hiking around the trails at the Nature Center. It's a gnome hunt. So there'll be little gnomes hidden throughout the Nature Center trails. And you go and you hike, and when you see one, you take a picture and then you submit that, and there'll be prizes. So that's kind of a fun thing that we're working on now. And then another program will be during our Arbor Day event, which will be another opportunity for volunteering. I understand we just determined that date. I think it's May 16th. As a Tree City USA participants, we are required to have an Arbor Day event to celebrate trees and educate the public about trees. So one thing that we'll be working on during that event is rolling out this tree truck that the Friends of Maplewood Nature are creating right now. There'll be identification signs throughout the Nature Center trails in front of various trees with QR codes, and you click on the code and you learn all about that tree. So I think the Friends of Maplewood Nature and our Park and Natural Resource Manager will offer some very good insights into what the city is planning for the Nature Center. And then, of course, I wanted to mention, thank you, Commissioner Bryan, that Commissioner Bryan was actually on the Nature Center Task Force. She participated in that. So she can offer some very good insights into the discussions that were held during that and the recommendations. And perhaps maybe she can still do that tonight, but I'll just finish up on my comments here. Let's see. Oh, and the community garden. Oh, I forgot to mention another exciting thing. We applied for a Department of Agriculture urban farming grant for improvements to our Edgerton community garden. So they had Oakley Bisons, who was a naturalist at the Nature Center and is no longer with the city of Maplewood. She was instrumental in starting that community garden years ago and working as the garden coordinator and working on improvements to that over the years. The city funded capital improvement project. I think it was 2018 or something like that, 17. And, they made some nice improvements, including, the organics, 2 large organic fencing. Sorry, I'm running out of words. They have a little library that's kind of fun. They did some ADA compliant gardens, with a concrete slab. They have a bench with an arbor and some other nice improvements that were made back then, but they weren't able to fund all of the improvements. So in this grant opportunity, we're asking for one, the infrastructure improvements, which would call for like a shed and fencing, some pathways that are more permeable and probably clover, something like that, good for pollinators. So all these types of improvements, in addition to a children's orchard, which and an educational area. So we'll partner with Edgerton Elementary School, which is right there, and Oakley did partner with them for many years. But this grant, if we get it, will also include programming for the students, and then 1 year of helping us implement that. So, spot on, and that's in our climate adaptation plan, that's in our urban agriculture goals, is to work on these community gardens and opening up more opportunities for local foods like Commissioner Miller did at the Mississippi apartments. And yeah, so that maybe someday.
And at Edgerton.
And at Edgerton, of course, because Commissioner Miller used to work there. And maybe you can give us an update on that as well, eventually on that program. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I've rambled on again long enough. I think I covered everything. But I think what I've heard is the climate adaptation mitigation, some urban ag goals, and then of course the Nature Center task force and helping with that implementation, getting our Nature Center back.
Anything else? Are we ready to move on?
Well, I think if you agree, I will put together, kind of refine those items and put them together in an implementation staff report. So how we're best going to implement all those things. And we'll just button that up in February.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right,
I
thank
did
you.
it without sticky notes even.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, unfinished business. I don't think we have any. Number 7, visitor presentations. No visitor presentations. Number 8, commissioner presentations. We have no commissioner presentations. And then 9, staff presentations. Right back to you, Sean. We have the State of Maplewood address.
Thank you. So the city of Maplewood, the mayor of Maplewood, Mayor Abrams, will be hosting the State of Maplewood address on February 15th at 10 a.m. It is a Zoom event. I sent you that link. It's a free event. So we'll hear from the mayor and updates on our city over the year 2021 and how we're doing. So if the members of the public are interested in attending that, there's information on the city's website as well, and it's a free event, anyone can attend. So hope to see you there virtually. And then moving on, I wanted to remind you that our February meeting is also rescheduled, and that is rescheduled to Tuesday, February 22nd at 7 p.m.
I have a quick question about that. Just going back to, so thinking of February meeting, is the February meeting when we'll be doing the trash and recycling updates, or is that March, do you think?
March.
Okay. When we do that, could we just, if we can make a note at that meeting to, if the spring cleanup is happening, I know we always need volunteers for that. And sometimes I feel like we've missed the advance notice about it to put it on calendars and stuff like that. So if we could do that when we do the trash and recycling plan, that might be helpful to make sure that we have that on our calendars as environmental commission members.
I did just confirm that date today for your information. It'll be April 16th.
April 16th. Okay.
And yeah, we'll bring that up again.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I would like to just make one more mention. And I forgot to add, I didn't add it, but as we were talking about, I should have mentioned this during the goals. So just a follow up kind of to your goal setting and environmental priorities. One of my new roles in this Park and Natural Resource Department will be a volunteer coordinator. And again, Oakleaf Bizance held that position, and the Nature Center, they managed a host of volunteers who did things like frog monitoring and assisting with our programming and so on and so forth. I know many of you had volunteered at the Nature Center. So that's one thing that I've been charged to kind of bring back. And I know Commissioner Bryan has been talking to me about how can people volunteer. So just know I'll be calling you. I'll be the coordinator. So I wanted to let you know that as well. So thank you.
We look forward to that. All right. Okay, I think that's the agenda for the day. I guess we can go ahead and adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We will adjourn the meeting of the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission at 8:05 p.m.